Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World for another edition of the Breakdown podcast, where we break down some stuff. I'm really looking forward to having a nice little chat this evening, going through some bits and pieces. But the main subject for this evening is how can Cardiff City boost their transfer budget? Do we need a bit of a fire sale, or are we hoping for a more organised squad management? Maybe trim it a little bit. Is there certain players who should go, could go, etc.? We're going to kind of discuss them one by one. A few different players, discussions, options. As always, please get involved in the conversation. Drop your comments, questions, opinions in the chat. And please do share the show, all that stuff. Subscribe. You know the drill by now. Excuse me. As well as that, some interesting little tidbits have come out today. Vincent Tan supposedly or apparently has invested £10 million in Corvic. I think that's very encouraging for Cardiff City fans, because I would feel that if that's likely, if he's invested money into Corvic, especially a sum of £10 million, I think it's very likely that he's going to loosen the purse strings at Cardiff City, which would be his main football enterprise. However, one of the issues that Cardiff City have, of course, is financial fair play, or whatever it's called now. It's you got to balance everything up, and we caused ourselves a problem during January with some timing issues, shall we say. So I think you have to be realistic. Like a Vincent Tan is not going to just chuck transfer budget of £10 million for players and wages and just say go spend it. And also, even if he did, I don't think the way the financial fair play is set up that Cardiff would just be able to do that. You'd have to see some ins and outs, and they have to find some funds. So you have to be realistic with that. Now, that's not to say that he won't invest. I think he will, and like I've heard a few different people saying that, he's going to back the manager, which is encouraging to hear, because I think what would have been really disappointing this summer, and what will be really disappointing this summer, is if we sign Bullet to his contract, he's got his contract, he's put his staff in, and then we don't back him, or we don't get the players that either he wants, or at least strengthen the first 11 significantly. And that's what we need. That's what we want. So either way, you're looking for the manager to be backed. So if we assume that we haven't got a Saudi Arabian style transfer budget like some of these Premier League clubs, and we need to raise money, where could we raise money? Which players will attract interest? Which players need to be moved on for a variety of reasons? Is there some players who need to go out on loan? We're going to focus predominantly on sales today. And look, I will say this, I've said it before, and I want to say it again. Any opinions are purely opinions based on football and, watching games, analysis, whatever it may be. They are just opinions. It's never personal against the player. It's never personal. Like, I'm not saying they're rubbish or they whatever it may be. And I want to be very careful with that, particularly with young players. But, with everyone, they're all human beings at the end of the day. It's not a personal thing. It's what's best for Cardiff City Football Club, what's best for the player in some cases. And Cardiff, really, we can't just keep everyone and then sign a load of players. It won't work. It's not fair on the players either, because they're just going to be sat around scratching their heads watching football. So let's discuss it. Let's have the opinion on who's what and what's going on. Reese says straight away, does that mean Corvic will spend £3 million on Isaac Davis, or £1 million or £2 million on Tasunda, etc., so Cardiff can spend? So, I mean, loosely, you seem like that would be a good idea, wouldn't it? Like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's a realistic price for both of them. But I think it's quite complex when you own two clubs. You have to make sure the payments or the fee is like market value and things like that. And it can be very complicated, and UEFA do love to get involved in these things. So I think both of those deals are unlikely. Judging by Bullet's comments the other day. I think he's definitely going to give Isaac Davis a chance to, to show what he can do, to show the improvements he's made, both on the pitch, physically, mentally, whatever it may be. I'm 100% sure that Isaac Davis, after a year living away from his family, or living in a different country, will be a different person to when he left. 100%. And I'm sure, just from an age point of view and a sporting point of view, he will have come along physically. So it'll be very interesting to see if he can take his obvious talent, his newfound maturity, or whatever whatever changes have come about through growth, from living away, whether he can transfer that into being a genuine out-and-out championship forward. Because I don't think anyone doubts that there's ability there. It's just whether he can do it consistently at championship level. I would love nothing more than for Isaac to prove the doubt was wrong. And that's me included, because I'm not 100% sure whether he's, if he's able to carry it and to go and be our guy. Like, can he be our backup number 9? Can he be our out-and-out number 9? It's very difficult to judge, because, as I say, there's the obvious talent there. He showed glimpses for us before. He's obviously gone away. I don't think he could have done much more on his loan at Corbeck. He's gone there. He's had a good attitude. He scored goals, got player of the season, looked really good. What more could he have done, in terms of, if you're looking to make an impression and, show that you can be at the level, you can only play for the club and play against the teams that your home club sent you to. We sent him to Corbeck, and I think he did as well as he could have. Like, I don't think there's much more he could have done. He played, let's just have a look at that, his complete stats for last season, because I'm pretty sure we looked at them before and they were really, quite impressive. So in total, he played 36 games. He scored 12 goals in total in all competitions. And, like, to me, I just think, look, it looks like he played, I'm just bringing it up now, but it looks as if he played predominantly through the middle for them, either as a second striker or a lone striker, which is fascinating for me, because I see a lot of people talking, opinions, social media, things like that. And I do see a lot of people saying that he should be a wide player, or he should be our wide player. But actually, I think I could see him as an out-and-out number 9 if the correct players were around him. I could see him being our central striker. But as with any young player, he has to be given opportunities. And if he's not going to get those opportunities, there's a decision to be made. Of course there is. And I've said a few times, I believe, when you look at Cardiff City historically with sales and things like that, particularly with sort of young starlets, if you like, what they will do is, if they get offered money for that type of player, they'll sell him. So if someone does offer 3 million, I think Cardiff City Football Club will sell Isaac Davis. Do I agree with it? Not so sure. But I think if you're realistic, you're getting £3 million for a player who didn't play for you last year to strengthen the squad. So we're going to kind of go through the squad and discuss a variety of things. One is, should the club want to keep him, sort of aspect. 2 is, would there be interest from other clubs? 3 is it time for them to move on a personal level, and that side of it. And we'll kind of look at it from all different angles and see what people think. As always, I'm very interested in what you guys think, because it's just my opinions at the end of the day. And I'm interested in what you guys think. Paul says it could be done, Reece, in regards to the Corbeck bidding for Davis or Sunday. He says it could be done, Reece, and if we want them back, same price, it's a good deal all around. Yeah, I just don't think UEFA would be letting that happen, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll fly under the radar because they don't really care about us. I don't know. And also, like Reece says, if that were to happen, Vincent Tan technically doesn't lose any money because it goes from one club to the other. You'd think there's things in place to stop that, but I don't know. because that's, technically, like, they're separate entities, Corvick and Cardiff City, so they should be able to sign players from each other without any fuss. So it'll be interesting how they kind of develop, because I'm sure Corvick would love to take Isaac Davis, for instance. Reese says Isaac Davis was injured for us 2 years ago for 6 months. His first game back was against Leeds United in the FA Cup. He played as a lone striker and he ran the Leeds defence ragged. He was outstanding in that game. Yeah, and I think with Isaac, what I'll be really focused on this year when we see him now in pre-season, maybe early season, is whether he can get the consistency. Because as I say, there's no doubt there's ability there and he's capable of games like that Leeds game. It's whether he can do it week in, week out. I really believe that if he can get the consistency, there's a real player there. So it'll be fascinating. But I also think if you were going to play a lone striker in his type of profile, who's maybe, not massive, we'd have to get the right players around him, get some pace around him. Ruben Colwell maybe in the 10, and yeah, there's a few adjustments you might need to make. But it's interesting. So let's have a look at the squad anyway. Obviously, some of these we're going to fly through. Ethan Howarth came in January. I think it's very, very unlikely he goes anywhere. He's a proven championship keeper. A bit up and down second half of the season, but I think it's unlikely that we see him move on. So we'll kind of swiftly move on to Jack Alnwick. I think, look, to me, someone asked me the other day what I thought. I was on Gabriel Sutton's EFL debate. So if you haven't watched that, please do go and check it out on his channel. He asked me what I kind of thought of Cardiff's keeping options. And to be honest with you, as they stand, I think they're pretty strong. I think you've got two really good championship keepers, and then you've got a really highly rated young keeper in Matthew Turner. And I think that's the ideal mix. Now, in Jack Alnwick's case, I said on the show, on the EFL debate, I think he's so unlucky last season. I thought he got treated a little bit shoddily. But football is about opinions, and it's not just us and fans who've got those opinions. The managers, the coaches, they all have opinions. So it was very clear from the get-go, pretty early in the season, when he brought Runnison in, that Bullet wasn't convinced by Jack Alnwick for whatever reason. And as soon as there was any semblance of a mistake, which I still stand by, I don't think he made any mistakes in that Norwich game, but he was dropped for Runnison. Runnison was a disaster. Alnwick came back in, but then as soon as the window opened, Runnison was gone, and we brought in Howarth, and it was not long before Howarth was in. And I understand Jack got an injury, a few little whispers and rumours of disagreements, and he wasn't happy. And I must be honest, if he wasn't happy, which there's no proof that that's the case, but if he wasn't happy, I wouldn't blame him. Now, will he be happy to probably be second fiddle playing cup games next year on the bench behind Howarth at this stage in his career? Does he, and he is good enough to be a first choice championship keeper. I think he's a real good keeper. Is he, will he be happy to sit on the bench? And my honest answer is I don't know. I don't know him. I don't know what his thought process is. He's 31. He's a very experienced keeper. So let me put the question to you guys. Knowing that Bullet likely prefers Howarth, could you see a scenario where someone offers 500 grand, 750 grand for Alnwick and the club takes it? Now, again, if that were to happen, we'd have to bring in another keeper. Obviously, Rohan Lafur has left the club, so we've only got really Matthew Turner there, who's a young guy, very highly rated, signed a new contract. But it would be big shoes for him to be the number 2 this season. Maybe they, if they rate him so highly, maybe they trust him. But I do think Jack Alnwick potentially is someone the club may sell to raise funds, depending on. I don't think he's like, if the manager and the coaches and then the people at the club have got the list of players, I don't think he's like at the top of people who you want to move out. But I certainly think if a bid came in, the club would consider it. And then you also have to take into account, is he going to be happy? Would he be happy sitting on the bench? Will he want to go and seek out first team football? Does he want to be playing? So will he ask to leave? There is that aspect to it. So I think he goes in this like kind of maybe pile. Matthew, personally, by the way, Jack Alnwick, I would keep. I think having those two as your keeper options with a young Matthew Turner is great. I think that's a real strong position that we don't need to worry about at this point in time. Matthew Turner, highly rated, signed a new contract recently. A very good keeper by all accounts, obviously young, and I think learning from two proven championship players and two, exemplary trainers, experienced goalkeepers. Like for lack of a better term, what an apprenticeship to learn under those two. Ethan Halverth, an experienced championship keeper, played in the international stage as well. Same with Jack Alnwick, very proven, experienced championship keeper. So Matthew Turner's in a great spot learning from those two. So keeper positions I would like to see as is, but it remains to be seen whether the club will consider offers for Jack Alnwick. Let's have a look then at some of the comments before we move on to the defence. Reece says, I'd keep Alnwick, he'd be my number one, but I can see a Scottish club come in for him before the season starts. I don't disagree, mate, and I think if the money's right. There you go. Borough fan says, here's a good one for your side. The wife says, I'm welcome to keep my opinion. She doesn't need it. Yes, indeed, mate. And I'm sure people feel the same about my opinions, but there we go. I've got one, so I'm going to share it. And Reece says probably be like 100 to 250 grand to a Scottish club, and then the club would probably sign an older number 2 on a free. I'd be very disappointed if we sold him for that, mate. I got to be honest. I think he's a really good keeper, and he's a really good championship level keeper. I'd be disappointed if we sold him for anything less than 500 grand. I really would. And I also wouldn't be in a rush to sell him unless he's really pushing for it. Defenders wise, we've got Tsunda is injured. Obviously, been on loan. Nobody quite knows what sort of standard he's going to be up to. I've heard that he's a really good ball playing centre back, but until we see, it's very difficult to judge. He's out injured at the moment. I don't see him going anywhere. Maybe he goes out on loan again. I guess that one will remain to be seen. But I am intrigued by him because I've heard from a couple of people that he's pretty decent. So we shall see. We shall see. Next up, Marlon Romeo. Now this is the question, isn't it? This one's been quite an interesting one because I think if you'd asked the majority just after Christmas last year, I believe that if you'd asked someone just after Christmas, I think the majority of fans would have said keep Romeo because he's he's versatile, he tries hard, he's decent, he's a good backup, good squad player to have. However, I think that shifted as the season went on. He had a few disciplinary issues. He got dropped from the squad and left the squad short. Maybe some disagreements with the manager. Can you move him out and for a fee and then bring someone in who's better or more of a first team player? I don't know. Personally, I think so much has happened in these last few months that it may be better for Marlon Romeo to move on. It may be better for Cardiff City to move on. A fresh start for him and the club kind of move on. Cody Dramer's been heavily linked with Cardiff City on a free. In my opinion, if you move Romeo out and Dramer in, I think that's an improvement. So the squad's better by default. I don't look as purely as a footballer. I think Romeo is a real good option to have on the bench. He can play fullback, he can play centre back, probably more as a 3, but he can play fullback either side. He can play as a centre back. He can also play as like a defensive midfielder. He's good on the ball, technically very decent. Works hard generally speaking. So it's a bit of a shame, but I think the time is right to part ways. And again, it's only my opinion. I hope in many ways, and any player which I say that I think should maybe move on, I hope they stay and prove me wrong and have the season of their life and I look stupid and people can clip it up and say, look at this idiot saying this and that, thinks he knows everything. It's only an opinion. It's not personal. I just think it's probably the right time for all parties, considering everything that's happened. Comments, Romeo, I think the club are looking to offload, hoping to get a fee in so they can can see him leaving. Been saying it for ages. We need to get Cody Dramer. He can play off the left. Yeah, Dramer can play off the left or the right, I think. Shame, I really like Romeo. Thought he was a good right back. Something went wrong. His attitude seemed to change. Issues off the field, and when he when he did play, he didn't seem bothered. Time to move on now, I think. And obviously, Paul says you've got Raheem Conte in there who can do a good job as well. Reese says in the cup, the games last year, we had a load of youngsters on the pitch, and Romeo was a real leader. A vocal offering support. Sad how things have turned out. Yeah, I think my memory's shocking, as people know. But I'm sure I remember saying in a preview or a show last year, towards the start of the season, maybe coming into Christmas, that I was really happy that even though he wasn't playing, he seemed to have a really good attitude to training and the way he was going about his business, even though he wasn't playing. And then when he was having his chance, he seemed to have a good attitude. But that seemed to have a real dip as the season went on. And obviously we've had these other issues off the field. In my opinion, I think the club are looking to move him on. I did think after the most recent issue where he's issued the apology and the statement, I wondered whether the club might have just parted ways with him and terminate his contract. But I guess we'll see with that one. Gareth Henshaw says, Antwi's off to Newport, apparently. Good luck to him. Yeah, it's a shame because he was in and around the first team, Antwi, and then got a couple of chances in the cup, didn't he? And then I think he picked up an injury. Hasn't quite worked out for him. I think I got to say, I do think there's a player there in Antwi, and if he can stay fit, I think Newport could be a really good move to kickstart his career. I think he could show what he's available and show what he's capable of doing. Do you know what though, Gareth? I really hope that if we're selling him for like a small fee to Newport, I really hope we have a first refusal clause or a sell-on clause, because I do think there's a player there if he can stay, if he can recover from the injuries and stay fit. I think there's a player there, and it would be typical Cardiff to sell him to Newport. He has a really good season and then goes and signs for someone in the Championship and excels. So I'd like to think that we've got either a first refusal or a sell-on clause or a sell-on percentage of some sort. I'm really excited by Raheem Conte as well, by the way. I think he was of all the young players, I thought he was the one that, to me, that stood out the most in terms of looking ready to play regular first team football. I know we only saw a small sample size, but for me, the skill set and the attributes that he showed in those games, the composure that he showed in those games, both feet, going forwards, defensive awareness was something which really caught my eye as well. I'd like to see him get a chance, I got to say. I really think is Antwi out of contract? That'd be really gutting, but there we go. It is what it is. It is what it is. In terms of moving on to the squad, Joe Bagan, there was a point not that long ago where I think Joe Bagan came into the first team, and I think he looked like he was going to be a bit of a player, and then I don't know, stuff happened. I don't know what it was, but he then went off the boil. He's gone out on loan. By all accounts, I think he doesn't seem to have had as many kind of high-profile reports as maybe like an Eli King has had or an Isaac Davis has had in terms of their performance when out on loan. He is versatile. He can play left back, play left midfield. I foresee, in my opinion, I think he's most likely to go out on loan this year rather than being sold. I might be wrong completely. Maybe they'll use him as backup for that left back position, but that's my feeling is he'll go out on loan. But he's 22, and I think at that sort of age, you're looking to play football regularly. Just having a quick look at his stats from last year and how many games he played. So he played 25 games, an assist or two, and yeah, be interesting, Joel Bagan. I know a few people, like Reece says there, he says I'd sell him. He's never really impressed me. I was surprised the club gave him a 3-year deal. I'd be happy to let him go and sign someone to actually push Collins, cough, cough, Dramer. Yeah, I think, look, there was definitely a period when he first came into the first team where I thought he looked like a bit of a player. Hasn't quite worked out for him. I got a feeling, because he's got that 3-year contract, that he'll go out on loan again. I hope that I would like to see him go out on loan to like a League One or a League Two club to really test him at that sort of level and see if he, see if he's going to be that kind of good enough for the Championship level. But I guess will remains to be seen. Maybe at his age he'll want to go. I don't know, and maybe we can get like a little bit of money for him as well. So again, I think Joel probably goes in the maybe pile and maybe possibly on loan. Dimitri Gutas, I've heard of some interest in people signing him, but I would be shocked, amazed, and a little bit upset if we sold Dimitrios Gutas. He's the manager's guy. Very unlikely. Yes, he had some wobbles last year, and I think, look, I was the first to say, like, he gave me some worries at certain points, but overall, I thought he did really well for his first Championship season. You can see why the manager likes him, and I really like his partnership with Mark McGuinness. I think they complement each other really well, which kind of nicely brings me into Mark McGuinness. I can't remember who it was. Somebody said to me the other day that they would keep Gutas, but they would sell McGuinness, and they wouldn't be too disappointed if we sold Mark McGuinness. I'd be gutted if we sold Mark McGuinness. I really would. I think he has really vastly improved. I think there's an example of a player who's gone out on loan and come back a mature, capable footballer. Someone who's really kicked on during their loan spell. I really rate him. I think he's a ball playing centre back, which is what you need in the sort of way that the manager wants to play. You need someone in that central area of the back line who can play that way and do it well. And look, I thought when he got injured, we definitely didn't look better for it. Definitely didn't look better for it. He had a good season. He's still young, 23. He's got 5 caps for Ireland, can play either side. And I think when the manager switched Gutas to the other side, that really helped him just on that point. Unless you had a big money offer in for Mark McGuinness, I would not be looking to sell him. I think the spine of our side, minus a striker, looks pretty strong at the moment. So I think it would be disappointing to see Mark McGuinness moved on. And we haven't got a hell of a lot of centre-back options, really. Like, unless Tsunoda is Tsunoda, I apologise, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Unless he is like a real diamond and excellent, I believe that selling Mark McGuinness would be an issue. Certainly as we stand, and depending on who we were able to bring in. But even if we brought in Kipre or Phillips back or something like that, I'd still be against selling McGuinness because of his age and everything. Unless it's a big money move, I just don't think it's the right time to move him on. Reese says, I said if we have to lose someone to raise funds, then McGuinness I'd accept losing over the likes of Perry NG and Ruben. A few million and a sell-on fee would keep him. But if we have to sell for pounds, for money, then him. I really disagree, mate. I think I've said before, Ruben Colwell's unsellable for me. But in terms of, I think you've got to look at it realistically. I would assume Perry NG may move on, and I think you probably owe him the opportunity to do that. Now, if he doesn't, great, and I'm really happy with that. And I'm guessing, look, if Perry NG doesn't move on, I guess that does bring you to a bit of a conundrum. Like, who do you sell then to raise those funds? Which is the whole point of the debate this evening. Jamaru Collins. I thought he had a steady season last year. A steady season. Don't think he was incredible. I thought it took him a little bit of time to settle after his injury. Once he had a couple of 50-50s under him and knew that he wasn't going to break down again, I thought he improved vastly. I thought the one sort of part of his game which was a bit weaker than pre-injury, certainly at the start of the season, was the attacking side of his game. He was very reluctant to get forward, tidy on the ball, decent defensively, but reluctant to get forward. But then he lost his place to Esbrand for a while. And Wilson Esbrand fell apart in the South Wales derby up their place. Like, he looked like a rabbit in the headlights, unfortunately. And Jamalu came back into the side, and I thought he looked a bit more attacking and a bit more looking to get forward and help that left-hand side. Personally, I'd still go in for. I would look to get. I'd keep Jamalu Collins, but I would be looking to get a left back. I think we've mentioned Cody Draymond a couple of times. So if we kind of run through what we've said so far, Jack Alnwick, we'd want to keep, or I'd want to keep, but I could see the club selling him, or even potentially him asking to move on for first team football. Marlon Romeo, time to part ways. Joel Bagan, more likely to go on loan, but maybe a sellable asset. I wouldn't sell Gutierrez, McGuinness, Collins. Perry NG, if Perry NG wants to go, then sell him. But absolutely, you sell him at the price that we want to sell him, not at the price. Like, so many times over the years, we've undersold players. Like, know your worth. We had this discussion on the EFL debate the other day, and I put the question to Gabe Sutton, who's very knowledgeable, commentator and stuff like this. And I said, in your opinion, this is my opinion, which is Perry NG and Walker Peters were the best right backs in the Championship last year. Gabriel agreed, and I said, right, if Southampton sold Walker Peters this summer, would they take 5 million for him? And he said, absolutely not. He said, you're probably looking at closer to 30, 40, 50. And I said, well, so why do Cardiff City sell so badly? Perry NG is a highly rated fullback, certainly up there in the top fullbacks in the Championship. He's good on the ball, excellent defensively. He's a leader. He can play as a fullback. He can also play as a centre-back. He can also play as a left-back. He's very experienced. He's 28 years old. He's not tiny. He's a big boy. He's a big, strong athlete. Everything which a Premier League club looks for in 2024 in terms of a profile of player. So, he's got 2 years or so on his contract, 2 years on his contract. Yes, it's probably the time to sell him if he's not going to sign a new contract. Probably is the summer to sell him. But in my opinion, we absolutely have to get the right money for him. And I believe that we should be asking for more than 5 million. I know most people have said sort of 5 million and sell him. Personally, think it should be more. I don't know what I think it should be, but I just think that we shouldn't underrate the asset that we have. And I think if you sell him, if you sell Perry NG and you get rid of Romeo and then bring in Cody Draymond, you need probably another one as well, unless you are going to rely on Raheem Conte. And I don't hate that idea of Raheem Conte as a backup, like the out-and-out backup for the fullback position. I thought he showed enough. Gareth says one player who might go is Romeo, but more for his off-field issues. Good player, but disappointing with what he's done off the field. Yeah, there's been a few issues, hasn't there? towards the end of the season, and just hasn't helped him. And I think there was a definite change in attitude and body language post-Christmas where he wasn't playing, and there seemed to be some issues. Probably better for all parties just to move on, Gareth, I think. So moving on to the midfielders, because Raheem Conte is another one unsellable for me. And Louis Giles. Louis Giles, I think, might go on loan. But again, really, really talented fullback. Can you get away with him being one of the backups? I don't know. It's a big risk to go into the season with Jamalu Collins and Perry NG or his replacement, and then your only backups are young players. However, the reason I think we might go with that, so we might go with Jamalu Collins, and let's just say if Perry NG were to go, Cody Dramer, they're your first choice fullbacks, and then your backup is Louis Giles and Raheem Conte. The reason why I think we may choose to go with that and look to strengthen other areas is because you also have Callum O'Dowda who could play left back, and you also have Ollie Tanner who could play left back, and Joe Ralls as well, technically. So, I mean, you have a few options there. So maybe you can try and blood those youngsters and help them kick on. Into the midfield, you have first up is Ryan Wintle. I've said recently, I think Ryan Wintle is very good at what he does. Unfortunately, in my opinion, what he does, Psyopis is better at it than him. One, so Psyopis would be the first choice. Psyopis is also the manager's guy. And the way the manager wishes to play football doesn't probably suit having Wintle and Psyopis in there. You only need one of them. Now, would Wintle be happy to be like just a backup to Psyopis? I don't think so. And what I don't think we need to be doing as a football team is what we don't want to see is Wintle and Psyopis alongside each other. Maybe for the odd game, but generally speaking, we need someone who's a bit more progressive with their passing alongside Psyopis to link up the play from front to back and get the right players on the ball. Unfortunately for Ryan Wintle, I think if we're going to bring a midfielder in, Ryan's also almost the odd one out by default. And the reason I say that is you've got Psyopis is the manager's guy. Joe Ralls is the club captain and signed a new contract. Turnbull's only come in January. And then Wintle is like the kind of the odd one out, which is unfortunate because I do think he's a decent backup option, but we have to get someone in there who can play ball and play alongside Psyopis and a bit of aggression and a bit of dynamic play. I really believe that's a big part. Ryan Wintle's got 2 years on his contract. I think you can get money for him. So I think I'd probably err on the side of selling in Ryan Wintle's case. Maybe, I'm sure some people will disagree, but what I cannot abide and what I don't want to see next year is a midfield three of Psyopis, Wintle, and Joe Ralls. Like that was costly to us last year. And that's not Ryan Wintle's fault or any of the others' fault. That is on the manager for picking that midfield. Joe Ralls, club captain, signed a new contract. I don't think he's going to start every game. I think he is a very excellent, an excellent player to play in certain situations, certain games, play off the bench now and again, keeps the ball really well, probably just hasn't got the legs that he once had. Not his fault. Age catches us all. So I think, it's an interesting one. A couple of comments. Reese says, I like Wintle, but you've got Psyopis who does that job better. If we can get a fee, I'd be sad to see him leave, but I can understand it. Yeah, and I think that's basically what I'm saying. Garrett says, Joe Worrell as a centre-back would be a good addition, but it looks like Sheffield United may be favourites to land him. Yeah, this is the difficult thing, is you're competing with teams with parachute payments coming down from the Premier League. It's just a fact of life. I think the manager, will look, I'd expect a mixture of proven championship players, but also maybe he will look abroad as well. when he's looking for players. So Joe Ralls is I think going to be a big asset for our team next year. I don't expect him to play every game, but I certainly wouldn't sell him. And Ramsey, been training very hard through pre-season. His first proper pre-season for a long time. Showed at the start of last season that he's still got the quality to influence games. And big games at that. Excellent in the South Wales derby. He was excellent against Leicester, I think it was, away. Obviously, the biggest issue is that we just didn't have him playing and available enough. Hopefully now with a full season, full pre-season, getting himself super fit, we can see the best of him. And look, anybody who's expecting him to play 40 games a season is in for shock. But that's why having him there doesn't hold back Ruben Colwell, because they can kind of almost share that number 10 position. And also, if Ruben's going to learn from a number 10 or learn from a player like the Welsh captain, someone who's played for, in some of the biggest games in Europe, absolutely, what a player to learn from. So I think that speaks for itself. Callum O'Dowda. Oh, I love Callum O'Dowda. What a player. Callum O'Dowda when he's fit. What a player. So versatile, so graceful on the ball. My biggest concern with Callum O'Dowda is we just didn't see him last year very much at all. And I'd be awfully disappointed if we didn't get, a fit Callum O'Dowda, because I think like a fit Callum O'Dowda is so versatile. He can play, left midfield, right midfield, left back, play centrally. 29, very, very experienced footballer, 30 caps for Ireland. He is what a footballer. I've got a massive Callum O'Dowda fan. But I don't want to see. I need players to be available, so I wouldn't sell him. But we've got to get him fit. He's only got a year left on his contract, so we've got to get him fit. And I'd like to think as well that like if he's going to want a new contract at some point this season, he's going to have to show that he can stay fit. Because when he's fit, what a player! What a player! Let's just go to some of the comments. Paul says, Omar Rizza is this new coach. Will know a few championship experienced players. Yeah, absolutely. Paul also says, Wintle and Rules are both two different players, but they do a lot of the same stuff on the pitch. Evening, Jaden. Jaden says, we should have signed Axelton Zabi when we had a chance. Yeah, I was banging that drum, mate. Banging that drum big time. And this is an interesting one. A little rumour that's been floating about today is that we are interested in potentially signing, I'm going to try and pronounce his name now, Milicic Ali from Exeter City. Now, that would be an interesting one. So I've talked a lot in recent weeks about the need or the fact that we should look to the lower leagues for any diamonds in the rough, any bargains, because I think they're there to be found. You've just got to do the research and the work, and then it's about negotiating it without other clubs pinching them off you and becoming involved. Predominantly a left winger, can play through the middle, can play off the right as well, though. Skillful boy. And if he's available at a good price, I think it's worth these 24. Let's have a look at these. Let's have a look at his stats, shall we? Got really decent stats for his overall career. Let's have a look at last season specifically, though. So Milicic Ali from Exeter City, this is, as I say, left winger. Played 31 times, so that's good availability, first and foremost. Scored 11 goals with a couple of assists. He played 18 games as a left winger, scoring 5 goals, 2 assists. Played through the middle 5 times, scoring 4 goals. So he obviously does that very capably. In fact, when he played through the middle, he averaged almost a goal a game. And he played off the right with 1 goal, 1 assist. So very capable. Obviously, League One and the National League is a different level. It's a different level to what the Championship is. But if you can get him cheap, it's worth a punt. It's worth a punt. Next up, so we're going to fly through some of these now. David Turnbull only came in January. I think there's a player there, and I think I'd be very, very surprised if he doesn't realise that potential at Cardiff City, because I think there's a real player there. I still will die on the hill that I think he'd be better from a bit deeper rather than number 10. But ultimately, when he's on the pitch, I want to see him taking some set pieces, and I want to see him taking some responsibility, because I think there's a real player there. Obviously, only came in January, so I think it's very unlikely we sell him. Ebo Adams, I think it's very likely he goes to Derby. For whatever reason, hasn't worked at Cardiff. Hasn't really got an opportunity. I'd be very surprised if we were to keep him. Siopis, the manager's man, in my opinion, one of the better out-and-out defensive midfielders in the league. So we're absolutely going to keep him. Next up, Eli King is a really interesting one, because I believe that we might see Eli King have a bit of a coming out party this year for Cardiff City. Historically, players who come from the Scottish League to the Championship do very well. Now, Eli's just been at Ross County for the latter part of last season and did very, very well as a number 8, but also as a 6, as a defensive midfielder. And I think if he can transfer that form over here, he's a big boy. He's been capped by Wales under-21s 11 times. He's 21 years old. Predominantly is a kind of CDM, but he can be a bit more progressive. I think he showed that last year. He is one I'm going to have my eye on, because I think if you move on Ryan Wintle, you do need someone who can step in for Siopis when he's tired, when he's suspended, when he's injured. And I think Eli King might get that role as the backup defensive midfielder. But will remain to be seen. Rinamoto, I think very, very likely that he's that he is, that he moves on. Basically, for him, for the club, I just think it hasn't worked. Certainly worked under Buller. It's not gonna work out. He hasn't played much game time. He's 27 years old. He's going to want to play football. I don't think they're going to get massive amount of money for him, due to the fact he's barely played over the last sort of season or so. But, he's a versatile player, a Zimbabwe international, so I'm sure there'll be clubs who will be interested, but I don't think his long-term future is at Cardiff, to be honest. Ruben Colwell, unsellable. Build your side around him. Kiana Tete. I know I just look straight away in the comments. Reese will be saying, sell, sell, sell. Me, I think there's technical ability there. There's something. He's got that little spark in him that if we can get him mentally and physically ready, there's a player there. So my hope is that he goes out on loan to a League One side, because I don't think, he played Championship football last year fairly regularly until he got injured. Like, Bullet likes him. Send him somewhere where he's going to play as close to a Championship level as you can, but where he's going to play week in, week out against experienced, for lack of a better term, like journeymen centre-backs who are going to batter him about a bit and, disrupt his hip off the ball when the ball's in the air and move him and all the dirty tricks. And really test him. And I think if he comes back after playing 30, 40 games, if he can stay fit, play 30, 40 games at League One level, score some goals, I think we can have a player there. I think there's a player there. I really do. But I don't think, if we keep him as one of our forward options, certainly one of our first 2 forward options, I think we'll struggle to be looking at playoffs and things like that. I really do. It's just a fact that I don't think he's ready for that. But I do I disagree that when people say they're outselling him, I think there's someone there, something there. He's got that spark. That goal against Blackburn in the EFL Cup was special. You don't do that if you haven't got that ability. Yaku Mete, I want to see more from Yaku Mete. I don't expect him to be sold. Me personally, if we had like a bid of a million plus, I would probably sell because I haven't seen enough from him. However, I do really like his mentality and his attitude. When we signed him, I was super excited because he always used to score against us. But I just haven't seen that for us. He missed a lot of chances last year when he played through the middle. His link-up play is exceptional. His work rate, his attitude's good. Just didn't see enough from him for me. I think you could bring in better, and if that means you can get like a little bit of money for him, I wouldn't be against selling him. But he isn't one that I'd be looking to move out. Kieran Evans signed a new contract. The manager likes him. Probably goes out on loan this year. Ollie Tanner, interesting one. Got to step up this year. Got to step up. Showed glimpses at the start of the season. Then went off the boil in a big way in the middle of the season. And then I thought he came back really strong at the end of the season, playing out of position. I think his versatility could be helpful to him this year, where he might be able to slot in at right wing, left back. But I think he needs to make sure that when he gets his chance, he takes it. Because, again, there's a player there. It's got to be consistent, though. But I wouldn't sell. Isaac Davis, we talked about at the start of the show, so I don't really want to kind of repeat myself and go over the same stuff. I think if money comes in, Cardiff will sell him. Me personally, I think I believe there's a player there, and I think that year away in Belgium will have changed him fundamentally as a young man, living away from family, living away from home for the first time. Did as much as he could on the pitch, player of the year, scored goals. Definitely deserves a chance to show that he's capable, because I think he showed glimpses for us before. It's got to be consistent, though. Consistency is the key now at his age and everything. He's got to be consistent and show that he can do it. Kean Ashford, star boy, needs game time as much as possible at the start of the season, whether it's 20 minutes here and there on the right-hand side. Let's get him in. Let's get him there. And then lastly, I did mention Joel Colwell, but Joel Colwell, I think, probably goes out on loan. I just want him, wherever he goes, I want him to play week in, week out in a competitive league, because there's a real player there. Probably needs to bulk up a little bit, but yeah, I'm happy to say that I think he'll be a great player. I think he'll go on to be a quality player for Cardiff, but I think he needs to play football now, so it'll probably be a loan. And then finally, we've got Callum Robinson. I don't think anyone who watches my content will be shocked to hear me say that I think we should shake hands and part ways with Callum Robinson. I think it's better for all parties concerned. It was clear that him and the manager didn't see eye to eye. Had a few disciplinary issues where he was dropped from the squad. Never really kicked on last year. At the start of and look, just to show that it's not personal, at the start of last season, when I was sort of previewing the season, I said Callum Robinson is the best finisher at Cardiff City Football Club. He should be the number 9 in our system now. When the squad was settled, he should have been our number 9. Now I think too much water's gone under the bridge. I'd be very surprised if we don't often see manager-player relationships after more than a couple of disagreements publicly. We don't usually see them get, repaired. The manager signed a new contract, and I think you can get some money for Callum Robinson. I think there'll be clubs interested. He's a real good player. I still stand by that we should ask Birmingham if they would accept like 1.5 million plus Callum Robinson and Ryan Wintle for Jordan James. I stand by that. Like, that is, I know it's unlikely and it's probably unrealistic on my part, But I'd certainly ask the question. And from a Birmingham point of view, you get 1.5 million, plus you get 2 players who would absolutely tear it up in League One. So, look, Cam Robinson is a very experienced footballer. He's 29 years old. He's played 37 times for Ireland. He's versatile as well. He can play wide, he can play through the middle, he can play as a 10. The manager seemed to want to play him. Me personally, I think his best position is through the middle. I think he is a capable footballer. For whatever reason, didn't really get going. And when you look at his stats in his overall career, as a centre forward, he's played 130 games, which is the most he's played in any other position. So, like, centre forward is his position. He's played 130 games with 39 goals and 22 assists. As a left winger, he's played 108 games, 27 goals, 13 assists. So he's done quite well off the left. Off the right, 44 games, 11 goals, 3 assists. And as a number 10, 19, 5 goals, 2 assists. So, look, for me, he's a striker. And when we were crying out for a centre forward last year, he really, 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 really should have been that. Robinson was the guy that he turned to, but because they'd fallen out, because he'd had to be disciplined, I think the manager felt like he couldn't turn to him or couldn't play him in that position, couldn't trust him, whatever you want to say. But yeah, I think it's time for, shake hands. Thank you for your effort. Thank you for your time. And just part ways. It's better for the player. It's not going to do him any good being sat on the bench. Not going to do Cardiff any good paying his high wages and not getting him on the pitch. So it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I think, as we've gone through the squad there, you can raise some funds. Romeo, Perry NG, Robinson, maybe Isaac Davis, maybe Jack Alnwick. But before in terms of, I said this yesterday, what I do think is important for Cardiff is to get a couple of players in before they look to move players out, because what we don't want to happen is for us to move a load of players out, and then when we go and ask someone, how much do you want for so-and-so, they look at our squad, see how threadbare it is, know we're desperate, and up the price. So let's get some players in. Looks like we're going to. There's been strong rumours that they were going to get a couple in before the end of this week. Let's get that done. And then let's start trimming this squad a little bit, raising some funds, because I think we have the basis of a good squad. Like, we have the basis of a really good Championship 11 in terms of, like, we've got like 5 or 6 good first team players. Need a few more to make that 11 really strong. We've got a lot of good young players and then a couple of decent squad players. So we have the basis, but we've got to get a few players in. We need a centre back. If Perry NG stays, I think we need 1 full back. If he goes, we probably need 2. We need a number 8. Did I say centre back? Yeah, we need a centre back, number 8, a full back, at least 1. I would say 1 winger at least, maybe 2. But I think what we'll do is we'll buy 1 winger, like an out-and-out winger, like a traditional winger. And then I think we'll buy a striker. And then I think what we'll do is we'll buy a striker who can also play wide, or a wide player who can also play striker, who will act as the backup to the number 9, simply from a financial fair play, finances point of view. Signing 2 strikers, 2 wingers, 2 fullbacks, a number 8, etc. It's a lot in one window. So I think I could see that versatility. But I also think we might take like a little punt on, the likes of Militic Ali from Exeter City, someone like that, who can, it's a gamble for very little money. If they come off, great. If they don't, it's not too much pressure on the player, not too much pressure on, the manager and stuff to make it happen. So I think that we'll definitely see 1 or maybe even 2, a couple of those sort of little gambles in terms of like lower league players. And there's some players, we talked about it. There's some players down there in different leagues and in Scotland who are absolutely worth the gamble. At the moment, our wage bill's gone down considerably because the loan players have gone back. You know, Callum Robinson, I believe I'm led to believe is on decent money. So if you sell him, that brings your wage budget down as well. And then depending on who you bring in, would then obviously mean we could balance the books. But it's going to be interesting because we have players. We need some players. We've got to sell some players. Got to raise some funds. I think the club's going to back the manager. And it's going to be very interesting. This week, we've got lots of content coming up. We should have a new episode of the history of Cardiff City. Might have an episode of the Greek League. We'll have the Flower Hour Wednesday with a special guest before ex-Cardiff City midfielder joining us, or joining the boys. Friday night, myself and Pan will be talking loan players that the club could potentially bring in. And we've got all sorts of things. We've also got the Willie Boland City Legends event will be out this week. I haven't quite decided on how it's going to be distributed and stuff yet, whether it'll be on Ace Podcast Nation and then broken down into 3 parts on Cardiff City World or the other way around. But either way, the City Legend event with Willie Boland will be out later this week. So do look out for that. Please do make sure you liked and subscribed and all that good stuff. If you'd like to support the channel and the content that we create, please do become a member. It's patreon.com/Ace Podcast Nation. It's the price of a coffee per month. Helps us out massively in terms of everything. We also have lots and lots of interviews coming on Ace Podcast Nation, including a former Welsh international. The Joe Ledley event, which was this past Saturday, was an absolute scream. Lots and lots of fun, lots of dancing, lots of singing, etc. by Joe. Not me, may I add. But that we got a big behind-the-scenes video with that coming out. We'll have the full version of that. I'll be out eventually, but it won't be out for a while. We've also got a question of Cardiff City come in, which is a question based on a question of sport, but it's about Cardiff City. Team Abandonato go up against Team Phillips. I'm going to finish editing that this week, so that'll be out soon as well. So yeah, loads and loads of stuff to come. Make sure you're locked in. Make sure you click that bell for notifications. Gavin says I'd go for Dembele, who was on loan at Blackpool last year. Yeah, 100%, mate. I brought him up on Friday's show. Absolutely, he's an absolute baller, mate. There's him and his brother. Actually, I would get in. They're pretty workable with regards to fees and loans, and very, 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 very skillful footballers. So yeah, we're going to talk about loans on Friday though. So if you've got any suggestions for loan signings, drop them in the comments, and we'll see you in a bit. Diolch.